Yes, indeed. It is the recruiting hour on OB Live because recruiting never stops. Brought to you by Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John needs your help this week. We'll tell you about it coming up and how you can help John maybe get to South by Southwest. But there's always recruiting news going on. That's Jason Sukamel, of course. Jason, we're going to start kind of where we did last week with another Texas commit that may have wondering eyes, that may be looking around a little bit. So let's talk about James Johnson. Pretty big badass here. Number one defensive lineman in the country, I believe, according to a ranking I looked at today. What's the update we get on Johnson today?
Yeah, well, first off, I got to give credit. It was a report from a Florida site on 24/7, okay? But they talked to Johnson, I'm presuming after a game or a scrimmage or something. And he did say that he's considering, or not considering, he's planning on taking a visit to Florida. Now, what he said, my understanding is he's going to go for a game when Florida plays Texas. So at least you have that kind of silver lining, if you will, around that cloud. If you're a Texas fan, that you might actually see Texas and Florida, but Florida's not going away in this. He's a one-time Georgia commitment. If you remember, he committed to Georgia, Chad, and like 2 weeks later, kind of not out of the blue, but he flipped to Texas pretty quickly. I mean, about 2 weeks later after he committed to Georgia. Miami is a school he still might go visit. He's from Miami Northwestern, so obviously they're right there in his backyard. So James Johnson, number one interior defensive lineman in the country per the Rivals industry ranking, number 42 player in the country, committed to Texas. He flipped to Texas on July 15th. So we are a little more than a month away from that commitment, and he's already talking about taking other visits. Okay, I wrote about this in my 3-2-1 column. Not really terribly surprising. We talked about Derek Cooper. Was that just last week, Chad? I can barely. Okay, was it?
I think
Derek
so.
Cooper, I was going to take that visit to Miami for their home opener, season opener, home game against Notre Dame. Well, I said that one wasn't really that surprising either, just the way kind of the commitment went. It was a bit untraditional in that he didn't take a Texas official visit. I think NIL was a big part of that one. So anytime you have something like that takes a more, like I say, untraditional path, okay, well, you kind of expect these twists and turns. And the same is kind of true of James Johnson. He commits to Georgia. About 2 weeks later, he flips to Texas. So like, okay, that's not a traditional path to take. I think NIL probably played a big part in this one. So it's not like he's a guy that grew up a diehard Longhorn fan. He's not Dia Bell, okay, who committed super early and has never looked back. He plays defensive tackle. Texas has 4 out-of-state defensive tackle commitments. So if you would have asked me, Chad, a week ago, a month ago, hey, what's one position we need to watch for Texas to be leery of guys flipping away from UT, I would have said defensive tackle. They got 4 commitments, and they're all out-of-state guys. I've always wondered, like, are they going to be able to hold on to all 4? Isn't too terribly surprising that maybe he wants to take some other visits. Is it worth watching? Absolutely. Am I freaking out? Am I advising Texas fans to freak out? No, I'm not. If I'm making a prediction, I'm still predicting James Johnson in this Texas recruiting class. He's still committed. I mean, I have no reason to think he's going to flip, not yet. But if he's taking visits to places like Miami and Florida, in-state programs, it's certainly worth watching. And I think it's probably fair to call him maybe a soft commitment at this point.
So, Jason, you mentioned the Florida part of it, or excuse me, the Georgia part of this. Any comfort if I'm a Texas fan that he's not rethinking about Georgia, like not thinking about going back to the original girlfriend, or am I just looking for a detail there?
Well, I think I wouldn't be shocked if that happened as well. And listen, a lot of times these guys say this, like, I want to go take this visit and this visit and this visit. Well, dude, you got games on Fridays and Saturdays. And if you have a game on Friday, usually you're meeting with your team on Saturday to go through film and stuff. So it's not always that easy. These teenagers don't kind of think the logistics through. Sometimes there's like, I want to go to Oregon one day, and then I want to go to USC the next week when they play so and so. Okay, Mick, you better get on some red-eye flights. But yeah, but no, Georgia I think is still going to be in play here. I mean, they're not going to go away. It was the 2 in-state schools is the ones that my understanding that he mentioned the most, but I don't think Georgia's going to go away. And, I remember a Texas coach, and I think I put this in my column, and I wrote this yesterday afternoon, which feels like forever ago. But a coach told me one time, hey, these out-of-state guys, even when they commit, you have to continue to recruit them as aggressively as if they're uncommitted. You can't let up. Even though they're committed to Texas, you have to continue to recruit them ultra aggressively. Well, that's what Texas is going to have to do with James Johnson, with Derek Cooper, and maybe a couple of these other out-of-state defensive tackle commitments. So, is it good that Georgia, his quote-unquote first love, isn't the school predominantly being mentioned? Not really, because Miami, his home state or his hometown school rather, is being predominantly mentioned. Florida, another in-state school, is being predominantly mentioned. So, I think there's different ways to look at that, but I don't think any of it's particularly good. But again, I'm not saying, hey, go jump off a cliff, Texas fans. He's a great player. It would sting to lose him. Texas still has a really good chance of hanging on to James Johnson's commitment.
So, Jason, this might be a petty stance, but if I've made it on one side of the house divided, I'm going to make it on this side too. When we talk KJ Edwards, I've said, if I'm Mike Elko, I do not want KJ Edwards going to Baton Rouge as an A&M commitment, and I don't want him coming to Austin that way. If I'm Sark here, I don't know, do I have a right to say to James Johnson, hey, man, you can go anywhere, but are you really going to make a visit to Florida and I'm on the other sidelines? Like, that feels weird to me. I know we're way past being able to make demands of recruits, but Jason, that just feels weird to me. If I'm a Texas fan, if I'm Sark, I just don't want that.
Yeah, well, you know what you do if you're Sark? You go beat that ass. You go beat that Florida ass while he's in the side. And you call him as soon as you get on the bus to head to the airport. You call him, like, yeah, what'd you think of that? So, but it is interesting. Like, what's he, like we said with KJ, what's he going to wear? Is he going to wear, like, he's not going to wear burnt orange. Is he going to wear Florida orange? Is he going to wear a plain white t-shirt, just a black t-shirt? That's what I would recommend. So, and listen, man, like, as an old school and an old crotchety old man, I don't love it that committed guys take these game visits. Okay. You made a commitment to a program, but again, he's already flipped his commitment once, but I don't love it. But then I'm like, okay, but I also understand it, Chad. They're teenagers. It's a once in a lifetime experience. You can go see Florida and Texas. You can go see, Notre Dame in Miami in the Derek Cooper. I get it. That's not as bad as if you're taking an official visit. If someone said, oh, I'm going to take an official visit to whatever, Oregon or USC or Michigan or somewhere, then you're like, okay, that's a little more alarming. But, some of this, we talked about it with KJ Lacey. We talk about it all the time. Some of it is just these guys want to experience cool football atmospheres on a Saturday.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, Sark, I'm sure, listen, if you ask Sark, if he was sitting here and if he was being completely honest, he'd be like, no, hell no, I don't want him going to those campuses. But he's also understanding of it. I've always heard this Texas staff, when I talk to these recruits who take other visits, what do the Texas coaches tell you? And they're like, hey, man, go enjoy the experience. We're confident. We know you're coming back to us because that's where your heart is. So I think Sark and his staff handled this the right way. They probably don't love it, but they're also understanding of it. I'm kind of the same way. If I'm just saying, hey, man, you made a commitment, stick to that commitment, but also, hey, you're a teenager. This is a once in a lifetime experience. Go have a little bit of fun at the same time.
Another guy to keep an eye on there, James Johnson, goes by JJ Johnson, number one interior defensive lineman in the country, as Jason mentioned. So Florida, Miami, possibly Georgia, kind of keep that in mind. And yeah, we'll just see. Now there's just a list of games I'm highly interested in. We already added 2 of those A&M games last week. I'm like, really? Is KJ Edwards going to show up as an A&M recruit to those 2 road games? Now we have a road Texas game that we'll be watching on October 4th for now a different reason.
We'll be watching these visit lists of like when Texas plays on the road at Ohio State, like Miami, and I don't know who else plays at home. But I'll be looking at their visit list to see, are there any Texas guys on these visit lists?
True.
So it's going to make for an interesting fall for sure.
first weekend, that big game at Clemson. There's a big game at Florida State, very first weekend. So we'll be peeking in and trying to figure out. Yeah, Jason will be following to make sure we know where everybody's going to be. And obviously, you'll check it out right here on the Recruiting Hour. It is brought to you by Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Like I said earlier, John needs your help. Check this out. John needs your help to get to South by Southwest. That's right. Y'all know that thing has expanded into all kinds of cool stuff. John is a proud Texas X's Life member, as we've told you, and Longhorn Wealth Management Group, dedicated to what they do for over 30 years. And of course, John is a proud sponsor here of OB Live. He is asking you for a favor. He submitted 2 presentation proposals to be voted on for inclusion in the 26th South by Southwest Festival, which is scheduled next March in Austin. 1/3 of the selection committee decision, it's based on public voting for their favorite proposed presentations. So John is asking all of the OB family to take a photo of the screen now, or you can come back later and check it out and go through the video and use the provided QR codes that you see on your screen right now to vote for John's proposals by no later than this Sunday, August 24th. The presentation John has is entitled Financial Wellness, a Key to Mental and Physical Wellness. And he needs your votes in both the core South by Southwest competition, and you see that South by Southwest EDU competition. The latter is focused solely on the education community and audience. So John is asking you to give him a vote on both of those. Best of luck to John and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. South by Southwest just continues to grow and become all kinds of different things at the same time. So
can I make a confession? I've never been to South by Southwest.
I've done a couple non-wristband concerts here and there, but I'm with you, Jason. I'm even one step further. I've never done full blast South by Southwest. I've never done full blast ACL. And I've lived in Austin one way or the other since like 97.
Yeah, 91 for me. And I've never done either, Chad. And it used to appeal to me a little bit, but the older I get, I'm like, nah, those crowds and the heat and whatever else. Like maybe one day I'll go down there and but I'll go watch like 1, maybe 2 concerts. I can't do the whole weekend thing. But hey, OB Live, let's get John taken care of, and we need to have John put that on Orange Bloods too on the actual message board, and see if we can somehow upload those QR codes. I guess we could upload that graphic and see if we can get John. He can tell us both all about what it's like to experience that. So
yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's right. Then John will become a South by Southwest expert. Will be very, very cool. Yeah, I should have done South by Southwest and ACL back when I went to like Willie's Picnic, like that version of myself. That's when I should have gone. But now I'm far beyond like festival age. So I'm with you, Jason. I don't know if I'm going to any festivals.
I actually enjoy going to concerts. We don't do it a lot, but every time my wife and I do it, we're like, that was awesome. Why don't we do that more often? But we do like smaller events like stubs. Like my wife has this amazing knack of finding kind of under the radar musicians that 5 years later are blowing up, and like we'll go see them like at stubs and have a great time. But like that's more my speed, somewhere I can kind of get in and get out pretty easily.
Yeah, Stubbs is a good legendary place too. If y'all haven't been down to what's that, 8th and Red River for Stubbs, I think. All right, so Jason, as we roll through recruiting here, we gave Texas fans not bad news, just hey, keep your head on a swivel news for a second straight week. So let's get him some good news, because you were able to catch up with another Texas commit. This guy feels a lot more solid. Hayward Howard. The update here feels pretty good.
Yeah, and you did a good job reading between the lines. I had an update on Hayward in my 3-2-1 on Tuesday, and at some point on Wednesday, I will have my rumor mill, and I'm probably going to have a note on Hayward there. And you're right, Chad. He is very solid. I mean, other schools continue to talk to him, but he told me not taking any other visits. I'm 100% locked in. Love my commitment to Texas. Hayward, for a little background, he's the cornerback out of New Orleans Edna Carr power program in New Orleans. I tell you what was really interesting to me. He told me he played last year as a junior at 6 foot. Let me find my notes, make sure I get that. 6 foot 165. He's now 6'3.5" and 185. Still running in the 4.4s, he told me. So he's like, yeah, man, I had a huge growth spurt. He goes, and I packed on some mass. He goes, I feel like it's even made me even quicker and faster. He's going to play defensive back, probably mostly cornerback. He's going to play receiver. He's going to do kick returns. He's going to do punt returns. He's going to do a little bit of everything. But he is locked in with his Texas commitment. And then another interesting note on Hayward, he was going to try to go to Texas OU. He'll be at Texas A&M. Week 2 of his football season, which is still a few weeks away because he's got a couple scrimmages, and then he has week 1, obviously. In week 2, he plays on ESPN, none other than against Diabell. So,
okay.
yeah, mark the calendar, set your DVRs for that one. And I asked Hayward, so you can do a little John if you make a play on Diabell? And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I will be. But, he's confident in his team, but he knows that'll be a good matchup going against Diabell, his future teammate at Texas.
Looking to jump a route or two with
yeah, well, hey, you do that, Dia, they may have a double move ready for you, though. So, Dia's not dumb. So be ready, Hayward. It's going to be a test.
Yeah. And by the way, just so everybody understands, this old man does understand Hayward Howard. If you want to go to a home Texas game against A&M and the rival game against OU, well, that makes all the sense in the world to me. I guess Texas would need to be the home team in the Texas OU game.
That's right. Yep.
They are this year. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that would make total sense. And Jason, you mentioned easily my favorite part because I'm a sucker for the 6 foot and up cornerback. This really is kind of a get in on the ground floor thing for Texas. You're telling me he was 6 feet last year. Now we're at 6'3.5".
Yeah, that's what that's himself measuring. But I've eyeballed him, and I've talked to him in person. He is a tall. I didn't sit there and measure him up, but he is well over 6 foot. I remember that.
Awesome.
And he said, like, when he talked to Mark Orfe, he goes, "Hey, that was one of the messages." He goes, "We're kind of trying to change the not the culture necessarily, but just the way they recruit the cornerback position. They want these long, rangy corners with size and length." And Hayward obviously fits that bill. He said he's coming to Austin with the mindset of playing corner, but he also said, "Hey, I know that Texas likes their corners to also play in the nickel, maybe even some safety, maybe kind of that Jahdae Barron path, or they say start at nickel and then slide out to corner." So he's open-minded, but he also, he wants to be a corner ultimately, but he understands position flexibility will help him. And obviously that size, Texas coaches love that size and that length that he brings to the table.
Yeah, I love that idea. If I could do it, if I'm a coach, I want 5 guys out there, Jason, where everybody can hold hands and the 2 guys on the end can slap a coach on the sideline. Like, let's just cover as much of this field as we can. So that's an interesting note with Hayward Howard, a really solid Texas commit right now, but also up to 6'3.5". And hey, keep growing, young man. Maybe a little more. Get up to 6'4". Couldn't hurt at all. So that's great news if you're a Texas fan, a really solid commit there. More great news for you if you're a Texas fan. We always tell you to hit orangebloods.com. We're talking about some information today, as we usually do, that's in Jason's 321 column, but there's so much great content at orangebloods.com. There's the QR code. Join for $1 for your first week to find out what it's all about, and then you will be hooked. Rumor Mill article. Jason referenced that earlier. The Truth and Lies article comes out each week now. Catches 10 thoughts from the weekend. Anwar's Sunday Pulpit. 2 legendary columns on Sundays that everybody anchors their week around. And then Thursday night, oh, by the way, is the War Room. We debut this show on a Wednesday, so whenever you're checking it out, just remember Thursday nights is all the news and notes and nuggets all thrown together at the same time with the War Room. So there's a lot of stuff at orangebloods.com. Check it all out. We also will tell you in that 321 article, Jason will ask for your questions from time to time. And from time to time, he will answer them. We're going to get to 4 of them. Now, number 2 is a little long, so we may need a little breather before that. But, Jason, let's start with this one, a question that came in for you on the tight end front. Do you think Texas will sign a tight end in this class?
Yeah, my answer was to that was that I just don't see it happening right now. Something would have to change. I don't see them flipping Mark Bowman. I don't see them flipping Caden Prothro, committed to Georgia. Bowman's at USC, right? Hezzy Kent, committed to Florida. Could they possibly flip him? I think that's unlikely. I don't know where they would go, Chad, unless there's some senior riser that just blows up this year and like, oh my gosh, we've got to have that guy. I don't say they passed on Keave Brown, but they kind of did. He was kind of committed, but kind of not, and that went sideways. So I don't think it's the biggest sense of urgency from this Texas staff. And it makes sense. Jack Andrews comes in. He's going to play and probably be your starter. He has 2 years of eligibility left. Okay. So you've got that. The 2 true freshmen that have come in, Nick Townsend and Amari Winston, I think it's pretty safe to say they've met or maybe even exceeded early expectations. Townsend's still pretty new. He didn't show up in the spring, but Amari did and did really well. So I think the coaches feel like, hey, we've got some young talent on the roster. We've got a veteran in Jack Andrews now who could be here 2 years. That's probably what the hope is. So I don't know that they're going to force the issue, which makes me think they're not going to take a tight end in this class. Unless something crazy happens, one of these other guys that I mentioned wants to kind of reopen their recruitment. If there's a guy who just blows up as a senior and has a great year, maybe they make a run at him. But right now, I would lean towards them not taking a tight end.
There we go. All right. As I said, the second question gets a little bit long, and it's about a big issue that a fan sees in this Texas team. So we'll get to that. Let me just hit Longhorn Wealth Management Group one more time here in the show. Give John a shout out, and let's see if we can get him to South by Southwest. John, a lifetime Texas Exes member, as we told you. He's also up in the Dallas area. We told you about if you're in Collin County, he's a part of that chapter now. Get on their email list for all the upcoming Texas Exes events. And again, the presentation that John's throwing in for South by is financial wellness, a key to mental and physical wellness. And he needs your votes on both of these QR codes that you see. So go to both of the QR codes. And as you can see here, scan the code, tap the heart icon to the left of the title, and then create a free account for your vote to count. Vote for John in both of these categories, and let's see if we can get him to South by Southwest. That would be very, very cool. And again, John is all about wanting you and your family to be set, to be ready to roll, and to understand the benefits of a certified financial planner. So check them out there. And as always, you got the numbers to deal with if you want to. Let me throw those at you real quick because they're not on the screen right now. But if you do want to check John out, actually, we've got that on our normal graphic. There's the normal graphic, 972-707-4900, and you can go to longhornwealth.net. So shout out to John there. Okay, Jason, let's get to this long one. It'll take two tiles for this one to get out. Looking back at last year and the year before, at the often great disparity in offensive production between the first half of games versus the second half, what will that improve this year? Continuing, was the issue Quinn Sark keeping things simple for reasons unknown, or overall inability to make halftime adjustments the problem, or was it an anomaly that will cease to exist this year?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. And if I knew the answer to all these questions, I'd be working on Steve Sarkisian's staff, right? Probably making a boatload of money, right? I'd get these issues figured out. But, this is just my opinion, obviously. I don't remember who submitted that question. But I said, people who know way more about football and offensive schemes and things than I do, way more, they will tell you, hey, Sark is one of the best offensive minds in the game, right? Certainly in the college game. So, did he just forget how to coach in the second half? And I know what this person's asking, because there were times in the second half things would kind of go stagnant for a little bit. I don't think so. And I don't think it's that Sark is incapable or unwilling to make adjustments. I do think, some of it maybe had a little bit to do with Quinn being a little bit inconsistent. His QBR, catch is written about that at length. Like in the third quarters wasn't always great. Sometimes they just didn't possess the ball a lot in the third quarters. Other times, what people forget, in the fourth quarter, Texas is sitting on leads. Sark really, took it to heart and really enjoyed when his team would have these 15-play drives to kill the clock, right, to run out the clock. And they did that on a couple occasions. Well, that's a sense of pride. He loves the toughness. He loves the physicality. He loves running the ball when they know you're going to be able to run it. And that also runs a lot of clock, meaning you're not going to have the kind of stats that you normally would if you're out there running your traditional offense, throwing the ball around on first down and second down, possibly. So I think there's a lot that goes into it. But yes, I think it's a fair statement to say, hey, maybe there were times when Sark was a little too conservative and it allowed teams to creep back into it. I'm all gas, no brakes, right? Let's do it, do it all the way through 4 quarters. But it's a good question. I don't know what the actual answer is. I think it's a combination of some of those things I talked about. But, will it be different this year? Will it be an anomaly and cease to exist? I don't know the answer. I'm sure Sark does a really good job of self-evaluation and self-reflection and kind of trying to figure out what happened last year and things that they can do better. I'm sure that's one of the things he evaluated. So, we'll see when the season starts, but I'm sure it's something they'll try to improve on.
Yeah, that's definitely something I think I'm going to be watching. Just like Texas fans, they want to see it and they want to feel it. There were times where you wanted them to snap the neck and they didn't. You wanted them to really put it on in a third quarter, and maybe it didn't happen. So we'll see. Like I always say, Jason, you can say all gas, no brakes, but that doesn't mean you can't just take your foot off the accelerator a second when you hit a corner and then go back in. You still stay away from the brake all you want, but sometimes I feel like Sark has an issue where it's like, knowing when to really maybe just let up a little bit on that. But I've always said the aggression part is what makes Sark Sark. So let's see what it looks like with Arch Manning. He had a juggling act last year. We can all, whatever your opinion of it was, those three guys had to deal with it. But man, the looming specter of Arch Manning in the background of every single throw Quinn Ewers makes, that had to be hard on a head coach. And now, Jason, he's got none of that. Just none. He can call this however he wants.
And he'll have an elite defense, God forbid here's the thing. If if they're up by 17 points in the third quarter and he's still being aggressive and there's a fumble or a pick six, then everybody's going to be like, what the hell, Sark? What were you doing? You should have been taking the air out of it. You can't win really either way, right?
Yeah, right.
But he also has the luxury this year if he wants to be a little bit more aggressive. And they had it last year, but this year I think going into the year we know it, he's going to have an elite defense to back him up, okay?
Yes.
If you go out and you're aggressive and you throw the ball 3 times in a row and you go 3 and out, you're like, uh-oh, people are going to bitch and moan. We know it. But at the same time, you've got a defense that's probably not going to let this other team drive down the field. I mean, we think. So, but again, hey, man, there's some playing around with that the first week or two that will probably determine how he calls games, in the following weeks.
And not to get too boring here, Jason, but if you take the 3-headed monster of your defense, your punter, and your place kicker, think about where they were at the end of the year. He didn't have faith in his place kicker. He didn't really have faith in his punter either.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of those was elite. If Bo Meester's Bo Meester, if Shipley is consistent like they're saying, and it seems like he's coming along, if he trusts the kicks and he trusts his punter to help with field position, and he thinks he has a badass defense that you're talking about, let's see if Sark starts to call plays based on that, because we could all feel him not trusting the special teams aspect last year, and I got it. When he was in the middle of the field, if I'd said, hey, this is where you want to go coffin corner, he'd have said, well, I don't have a guy that can do that. I don't. I mean, I can't. And when are we going to see him trust his defense? And will we see him call? I mean, it'll start in Columbus. Will he call that game like he thinks he can win it 17-13?
Right.
Because I think he can. I think that's how they could win that game. Is he going to call it that way? Where, you're driving the field and it's 4th and 1, 4th and 1 from the 3. It's like, okay, is he going to kick it here? If he could get a 10-point lead and kick, he does that, right? Because he trusts his defense. But then
you go for it and go for the juggler and go for it. And if you don't convert, that they're not going to drive 97 yards.
There you go. Because that's the sequence I was going through in my, watching certain things in my head. It was some game I was rewatching the other day. I guess it's Ohio State in a way. They were driving to tie that game. Even if you don't get points out of that drive, if you could have just given the ball to Ohio State on the 1, at that point, you probably trust your defense not to allow them to go back down the field. So does he do that in certain situations?
Sark always says, hey, each game takes on a life of its own. So, I mean, you're going to call Ohio State week 1 on the road differently than you are, even A&M at home in the last game of the season. So
it's a great question, whoever sent that in. And it's always fun to watch. How does an offensive minded coach think about his defense? And how does a defensive minded coach think about his offense? Because it's not, intuitively, they're just so locked into their side of it. We'll see how Sark handles things. All right, a couple more, Jason. Excuse me. This one goes back to recruiting, and it's about flips. No more flips this cycle. What are the chances they go hard after a couple more offensive linemen rather than betting on the portal?
Yeah, it was a pretty short, direct answer for me on this one. I said, no, I'm absolutely expecting flips. I mean, not just one. I think we'll see multiple. I mean, and yes, I do think at least one of them comes from the offensive line. I also think there's a strong chance that they do go to the offensive line in the portal, which we haven't really seen them do. They've tried a little bit, but I think we'll probably see more of that depending on how this line and some of these young guys look this fall. But the answer to that is absolutely. I would bet a significant amount of money we're going to see some recruiting flips, and I think we'll see at least one of those along the offensive line.
Yeah, this week Sark was asked about his biggest concern, and he said depth on the offensive line, obviously. So moving forward, if we don't see them go into the portal for an offensive lineman, I mean, it's going to be.
They may treat offensive linemen like they did defensive line the last couple of years, and
right.
You may see them. I mean, and some of that depends on who's in the portal too, of course. But it wouldn't shock me to see them go out and take 2, 3, even 4 portal offensive linemen. Again, all that being said, a lot of that's dependent on what happens with some. How does Nato Umezolo look? How does Connor Stroh look? How does how does Jaden Chapman looks, the true freshman? So Nick Brooks. I mean, there's a lot that will be evaluated in the next 3 months before we have that answer. But I definitely think they'll go offensive line hunting in the portal to some degree.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of those defensive tackle, specifically transfers, Hero Canoe with a blocked field goal apparently during during a practice or a scrimmage. I got that from orangebloods.com. That's why you need to head on over there. Shout out to Hero Canoe for that one. All right, one more, Jason, and then we will wrap up. Knowing what we think we know now, should we have made Mark Bowman an offer he couldn't refuse and been all in on Fasusi last year? Oh, we were relitigating two different things.
Well, 2 things on this. I think USC made Mark Bowman the offer he couldn't refuse. I mean, nobody was going to touch that, okay, or come close to touching that offer. So, I mean, he's a fantastic prospect, and I think he's going to be a great player for them at tight end. We'll be talking about him in the NFL someday. I feel pretty certain about that, but I don't know what kind of offer he can't refuse would have been with the rumors of what USC made him. I mean, you would have had to, USC reset the market. You'd have been then having to go above and beyond that. That would have been tough. And should they have gone all in on Fasusi last year? Well, they kind of did. I mean, Texas made a big NIL offer and did a great job of recruiting him, just like they did Justice Terry. In the end, he just liked Oklahoma. He had a comfort level there. He liked the opportunity to play early, and he liked their NIL offer. So, I don't think it's a case that Texas didn't go all in on Fasusi. You can always make an argument, well, they could have offered another little bit of money, another $100K, a little bit more money. Yeah, you can always say that, but at some point there's got to be a ceiling you can't go past. And I think Texas made a very competitive run at Michael Fasusi. Just sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes other teams have things in their advantage, or they have more money they want to put on the table, and it just doesn't always work out for you.
Thanks, everybody, for those questions that are rolling in. Feel free to get those to Jason whenever you like. Jason, anything else we need to hit before we close up this week?
No, I know it's not the most sexy of updates. Well, I do have 2 things in my 3-2-1. One was where I go position by position and I talk about potential flips. So check that out. And also what I think, and maybe I'm in the minority, I actually like talking to these kickers. I have an update on Texas kicker commit Jake Collette. And just, he had his first game last week and we talked about that. But also, listen, this is a guy who might be your starting kicker next year in 2026 for the Longhorns. Okay, Shipley's going to be gone. Mason Shipley's going to be gone. He's coming in with that mindset. And we talked about the mental toughness and that you have to be a kicker in these pressure situations. Get to know that name, Jake Collette. I'm not sitting here predicting he's going to be a 4-year starter, but I always say it, Chad, kickers can be the difference between going 11-1 and 8-4, because you're going to be in some games where a field goal or 2 can make the difference. This guy might be your starting kicker next year from day one. He's enrolling early, even as a kicker. He said, I'm going to roll early. I want to get used to my snapper and my holder and all that. So don't sleep on the Jake Collette update. He might end up being a very valuable part of this 2026 recruiting class.
Could be big. That's another way when you trust your defense, you use your kicker to show your trust in your defense sometimes too, to take those certain leads, add 3 points and everything. Check that out at orangebloods.com. Again, join for $1 for your first week. You'll be locked in. you'll be hooked. And we do appreciate the support. We appreciate Longhorn Wealth Management Group as well. As we end up here, I will throw that graphic back up so y'all can see the QR codes one more time. Help our guy John and Longhorn Wealth Management Group get to South by Southwest. We'll talk to you next week on the Recruiting Hour. Until then, it's Orange Bloods Live. Y'all take care. See ya.